Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to The Last of Us review. I am the Monkey Doctor, Tresno. I'm joined by
I am the little psycho Kirklin Patzer.
Mark Castor, Dilmas.
I am the People Fireflies, Taylor Field.
People Fireflies. Yeah, good nickname. We're back. Episode 6 of The Last of Us. I was going to say Last of Us, and I combined the word last and episode together. That's what happens on these Sunday reviews. But we are here. There's only 3 episodes left. Kind of crazy. 3 weeks, and then we're all done it. But Taylor, where can they find us? We did a very fun after night. It was great. Good. Almost 10, Taylor. Close to that StreamYard limit. I was hoping for the 10 just so it happened. But lots
Only
of
hit
people,
the 8.
Yeah,
Still
only hit the 8.
way off.
Doesn't matter. Way off?
I know a lot
Two.
about being 8 and 8%, and other things. So,
Right. Go check out after.
Go
9.
check out the episode. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us at Internet Connection. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerse our Twitter. GeekVerse is Facebook. I don't know if you threw it to me. I just run it.
Yeah, it
with
was.
So there you go.
You just also made it sound like I get what you're saying too, but without after 9, you just make yourself sound like you're in the 1%. You're like, yeah, I know things about in the 8%. Today's not in the 1%. But that was a really fun one. Also, go check out on the feed. Ant-Man reviews up there, and then tomorrow. Yeah, I guess when you listen to this tomorrow, we got a big one too. Is we'll have the Hogwarts Legacy review happening, so that's gonna be fun. That's all 4 of us, and then multiple newscasts this week. Trash told you, Weekly Geek, and then there'll be a Geek First podcast with no Taylor, just us 3. But I got some good topics for us, and and then head over to Patreon. Lots of retros up there, lots of reviews. Even this week, we're going to be hitting up the part 2 of X-Men Season 2. So that's going to be lots of fun. I got to get cracking on that. I haven't even started my watches yet.
Today.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited. There's some good stuff coming up. But yeah, head over there. It's the best way to support the network. We very much thank you, each and every one of you that does that. Big thank you to our Patreon producers, April Brain, Aaron Darkness, and Joshua Wright for doing that top tier stuff. Soon you'll be getting to voting some stuff, and then also, what are you laughing
You
about?
said April Braden, right? I heard that.
I think
too.
you said April Braden, yeah.
Aaron Brain, April Darkness, Joshua Wright. I think I got it this time. But and then you head over there and vote on some Golden Geek stuff. That's lots of fun. So yeah, do that all. We very much appreciate it. So, Kirklin, what do you think of this episode? I got thrown. I was going to throw it Taylor, but he was looking at his feet. So
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a really solid episode. I think it might be like my least favorite amongst the bunch, but it's still just really, really, really solid. So I think that just speaks to the quality of the first season so far. Some great character stuff, but I just think it was a little bit slow for me, and it's not like the rest of the show is super fast paced, but I don't know. It's just I wasn't as in it maybe until we got to some things that happened later on in the episode. I got a little bit more invested in it, but yeah, for the most part, I think it was still a good time. But I don't know. I feel like this one could have been a little bit shorter than what it was personally. But yeah.
wow, I'm gonna go next to someone on the polar opposite. Now Maddie. He's gonna roll his eyes because I saw him a couple weeks ago tweet like, "Man, every week, every episode comes out for Last of Us, and people keep saying it's the best one. What the fuck's going on?" So he might think it's repetitive, but I said that last week that was my favorite episode. Now I'm a broken record. I think this is my favorite episode. I eclipsed that because I guess because this was a really, in my opinion, for the most part, a good Joel-centric episode. I just like that. I feel like Pedro, he's been great this entire season, but I feel like this was the one where it's like, okay, we get to spend a lot of time with him. He gets to do a lot of range of things, and I like just characters talking and building, and we're getting a lot more in those conversations in the earlier season when it's like, hey, what happened there? And Joel's like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. Now we're getting that point where it's like, okay, you're starting to get the floodgates open for multiple characters, the traumas they've gone through, what they want to achieve, what they're scared of, and everything like that. So I think maybe it's just that it was my favorite Pedro episode, and we met a lot of characters and locations that I love from the game and from the second one as well. So I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a great time, and I'm very excited for the next 3 because the next 3 episodes we got all our massive banger points in the games coming up. So it's but to me that's why the slowness may work. It was like the calm before the storm because now we're gonna get some crazy stuff going on. But yeah, I absolutely love this episode. So my favorite of the season. So what about you, Dylan? Where are you on this one?
Yeah, I don't think this is my favorite, but it's definitely one of the best for me. Really, really enjoyed it. Pretty much what you said, Travis, of Pedro getting to do a little bit more. I thought that was very fun. There's a thing that happens at the very start of this episode. And I was like, ooh, I don't know if I like this choice. And so I'm excited to talk to you guys about that. So I guess that's the one thing that I feel a bit wishy-washy on at the moment. But otherwise, some great story stuff. This was like a very unexpected episode for me. I don't know how much of this is from the game, but like to my foggy knowledge of what the game is, like this all seemed like new content in terms of what I was expecting and stuff. And this is not really where I thought we would end up after the end of last week's episode, which, you know, since it was on Friday, it feels like so long ago, even though it's just like 2 more days than usual. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I don't know if there's even a possibility that an episode eclipses 3 for me. That was just so powerful. But just once again, even like the lowest episodes are still great, and this was like one of the best ones so far. So really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's good when the show's barometer is always like this type of quality. But Taylor,
I really, really love this episode. I think there was many different components that were unfolding, and I think it's great because for me, when I think an episode's coming to an end, but it doesn't, and it keeps on going, it's like, oh, this is great. We're still pushing it on and like going and getting into some new territory here. I love this. And again, I have not played the game to this point by any means, so I don't know anything that's going on. So it's still been super, super entertaining. And I really liked, like you were hinting at, Travis, getting certain characters talking and just kind of get a little bit more dialogue and seeing things that we haven't seen like Pedro do before, like in terms of in this show, like limited to this show, and things that he's doing acting wise, like he's just doing like knocking out of the park, and I'm really, really enjoying it, what he's been doing. So yeah, it's just cool to kind of see again more positive spins, and then, you know, something bad's coming and they throw like negative spins in there, and yeah, just overall a really good time.
well, we're gonna get into it. So, anything else non-spoilers? I don't think so. I think that's all of it. As Bub saying, I thought this was Pedro and Belle's best performance-wise so far. I think I could agree with that. I think they got some meaty stuff to chew on in this episode. So,
I think this episode. Oh, sorry.
oh no, I think we're gonna be saying different next week with Bella because it's a very Ellie-centric episode coming up. So I think that's where she's gonna shine. But Kirklin.
Nice. I feel like this is the episode I could tell it was Alberta the most. Once it got snowy, it's like, oh yeah, no, like it's familiar.
I've been there before. Yeah. So, all right. So if you haven't seen this episode, come back later on once you've seen it, and we'll be telling spoilers. We'll be right back. And we're back. So I want to start with, it's at the beginning, but I want to start with Mr. Muss. Well, I guess there's 2 things. One, I think when you talk about how different it is from the game, I think for the most part it's pretty similar. I think they've changed like it looking a little. I felt like where they're like home bases in the cities, that's pretty like close, like as far as like where they're watching a movie and stuff like that cities, but like the same. When they get there, I feel like part of their base is a bit more like mountainy and stuff like that. Like when they find that dam, I feel like there's a connection where you have to like get past water in a dam, and it's kind of like, oh well, we have the base operations and then the in town. I could be wrong on that, but I think there is a separation of. I think you don't spend as much time in that town maybe as the first game, but the second game it is a location, so I think that's why they're kind of highlighting it, because then be like, I know that. So
yeah, is the plot stuff mostly the same? If that's where you go to find his brother, and then his brother turns out to have a wife, and then that's when Ellie would find out about Sarah, like is most of those plot points happening there? Okay.
The only thing that's different is they made Tommy's wife, she's pregnant, and she's not pregnant in the games. So I don't know. I'm hoping it's going to play a bigger role, I imagine, in the future, but I'm hoping, because I never understood, and me and Emily talked about this before too, like there's this big struggle, right, of all Joel wants Tommy to take Ellie, and then eventually changes his mind, right? Every time I play, I guess I only played the once, but it's like, why don't they both go? Like, why does it always have to be one or the other? Like, even though Joel's a bit older, it's like, well, you could help each other out. But I think that's almost the help of putting a baby pregnancy storyline, because there's almost more of a reason for Tommy to stay back and not go, because he has a child on the way. So I think that's the only massive difference. I think the only thing is maybe the info is a bit more condensed as far as how you learn it, like in an hour opposed to maybe like 2 to 3. But
well, I mean, the way I took it in this episode was that Joel didn't want to go because he wouldn't be able to live with himself if Ellie died under his supervision in the most dangerous spot, which is, to me, the reason why the 2 of them wouldn't go, is because if he went alone or if he went with Tommy, it's still that fear that he's talking about would still be felt either way unless he's not there. Which I think is pretty bad reasoning, but that's like in a good way, right? It makes an interesting character has some kind of strange logic to his stuff.
I just think at the end when Tommy's prepared to go, and then Joel's like, "No, I'll go," and Tommy's like, "All right, I'm done." Like I've always been like, why doesn't Tommy still not go with them? You know,
Right,
like just.
okay.
But he has his life, I get it, and everything like that. So, and now he's a baby. So,
Interesting.
what was the thing at the beginning, Dylan? That was grinding your gears.
Well, yeah, it's just the time jump, right? Like 3 months is a long time. So because to this point, like to me, it seems like they've been together for like a week. Does that seem fair? 2 weeks, maybe at most.
I'd say 2 to 3 pushing and stuff like that, because there's been a couple sleeps, right, and stuff like that. So I'd say,
Yeah.
I'd say we're
So yeah, 3 months is a fucking long time. And to me, it didn't really feel like their dynamic had really changed. Like really, the part when I felt like their dynamic was a bit different was actually at the end of the episode after Joel makes that decision and they're on that little that journey to the university. That's when it feels like there's actually been a time jump, which in that time I think they said is another 5 days, right? But yeah, I guess I'm curious why the time jump, other than maybe just the logic of them being in Boston and now they're somewhere else, and just the logistics of them going that distance. Is that really the only reason? Because from a story perspective, I guess I can't really understand why they would do that, and it also didn't feel like it. And I guess like that's another thing too. Like, why do they need to be so set on whichever city they pick to be the one? Like, couldn't they have just made that a closer spot and not done a time jump? So yeah, how did that hit you guys?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a good point, because I feel like I would have liked it a lot more if we had maybe the time jump happen like later on in the episode, because then you could have had discussions amongst, I don't know, Joel and Ellie, and then you can see the dynamic shift like after the 3 months, kind of like what you're speaking to there. Because yeah, that is a good point. It doesn't seem like they did change that much from 3 months ago to where we are now. So I think that, I mean, in the moment I didn't really catch it, but yeah, no, it's definitely a good observation.
In the moment, I definitely didn't catch it. I mean, the only thing that stood out to me was the 5-day period near the back half of this episode, but I didn't. If I didn't catch it, then I imagine, okay, like that version of Taylor watching the episode wasn't bothered by it. So he just
Wait, like
rolled with
you
it.
mean you didn't see the 3 months later text? What do you mean by that?
They actually prompted like 3 month later texts. I don't even remember that.
Oh, okay. Am I crazy? Like that definitely was at
No,
the
it
start of
did.
the
It
episode,
definitely
right?
happened. Yeah,
When did
I
that
saw it.
happen? I don't even remember that.
Like the
Maybe
very like the
Very
opening,
beginning.
like you skip intro and then it's 3 months later, boom, we're into it.
I don't remember that. I remember
Interesting.
I remember Henry, like just the whole dynamic there, and then it went black, and then I remember like picking up like where we were.
Oh,
I don't
right.
remember
I guess
3
the
months
episode
later.
did start with re-showing that scene, and then 3 months later after that, and then they're in the cabin with those two other people.
My mind must have just been like, just ignore this, Taylor. It's just
Interesting. So yeah, that's it. No, that's worth noting though that you totally missed that, and it didn't feel like, oh, why? I feel like I'm missing something here. Like it felt as if no time had passed. That's
I
interesting.
think the only thing it does is because, like, I guess they're starting to form a relationship and everything. I think it just makes it so at the end when he doesn't want to go with Ellie, it makes her more hurt. Where if it's only a week to 2 weeks, there could still be a connection for him, but I don't think it's as strong. And I think you're right, Dylan, where it's not so much that they've changed. I just feel like they're still together. They're still, kind of getting to know each other. But I think it's also that Joel still has that wall up. And I think that was the difference of after this, when they talk about Sarah and the conversation with Tommy and everything like that. I think that's why it's different, if not so much the time. Like, I feel like if they would have not even met Tommy and kept going, they would have spent maybe another 3 months together and been the exact same type of relationship of, getting to know one another, but to a point, the same way as like Ellie doesn't get to know about Sarah, right? So I think that's where that's where I guess it works for me. It's just that they are connected, but not. They're not like they are at the end of this episode, but that's because just Joel has a wall up, and now it's down, and at least he can let her in a little bit more. Where before it's just they're protecting each other. But yeah, it's a very surface level, talking about jokes and joke books and space and stuff like that. So,
Do you guys think? Because we've talked about how so many of these episodes have started with flashback stuff. Do you think we'll visit any of that 3 month period? See a certain scene, or I don't know what we would see. I'm guessing they wouldn't skip past like a big plot point unless it was like a pacing thing for the show. But I'm just really trying to figure out why there's a 3 month time jump. It just doesn't really make much sense to me. I guess the other thing too is I was after last week's episode, we talked about this. I was so excited to see exactly what happens right after that moment, and I thought it was so powerful when Ellie's walking away after they do the grave, and like she had just had a totally different tone to her, and I really wanted to see that Ellie, and so I guess I feel a bit robbed too that we skipped right past that. And she did have a moment in this episode where she talks about, I've lost people too, and talk about the Sam thing. But I don't know. To me, it's not the same. Like I really wanted to see that, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wouldn't be interesting. Maybe it would just be her being moody for a few days and not really talking, and maybe that's not fun to see. But I was looking forward to it. So
Yeah, I think it would have been a lot better in hindsight if they had that discussion. Like, basically pick up the episode, play like the Henry and Sam thing, and then them like starting their travel and then talking about it or whatnot, and then that's where you have the 3 months, because then you could buy it like, okay, they've just been traveling this whole time, so it takes 3 months to get to their destination, and then the things that happen on the way was relatively safe and easy, so therefore you don't have to like fill it in there. But yeah, that's again another great observation, because I feel like we probably won't ever get much more on that, other than just like what she said about it in this episode.
yeah, it wouldn't really make sense to go back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus it's, something happened to Joel. He's not in good shape, so they're not going to be talking about that type of stuff.
Perfect time for a flashback. He's out of
Yeah.
commission.
Oh my God.
Remember something that he did in those 3
Here's
months.
armor
The whole
clinking.
next episode is just stuff from that 3 month time period, and we don't actually get that resolution of that. Oh, I would be so salty if that
No,
was the case.
I will prompt you. Next week's episode is an entire flashback episode. They're covering that DLC from the Ellie and stuff like that from the game. So if you think you're getting your immediate Joel answer right away, no, you're not.
All right.
So yeah, so
Wow.
you're gonna have a very Bill and Frank episode where it's like about the story, but very much off by itself and stuff. So just a prompt for next week, because I had to look it up. I wasn't sure when it was coming and stuff. So yeah, and then we meet Tommy. He's got some nice luscious locks going on now. A nice little mustache.
He looked good, man. His
He did
skin
look
was
good.
looking good.
His skin,
So
that's what happens.
Alberta Air does wonders for the skin and the hair.
Alberta Air. Alberta. I was like, where are you going here? But yeah, well, they make her crack of that, right? Like what Kurt was saying, like, oh, you look good, and like you look old, because
Yeah.
Joel's having a tough life and everything like that. But yeah, we meet this community, we meet his wife. I really, really liked the introduction of the scene with the dog. I thought that built some great intensity, because obviously I feel like we didn't all think, okay, Ellie's gonna get torn to shreds here, but it is this thing of, okay, what's the dog gonna smell? Like she's not infected, but she does have these bites on her and stuff like that. So I thought the intro was good. I thought the embrace was good, all up to kind of separating them and Ellie kind of getting this different taste of life, of this life of seeing how people are living, and then just hearing facts or reading journals of, that's one of my favorite things, when she's like, man, one of their biggest choices was what I'm going to wear in a day. Like she can't even process that in the sense of that's never been a thing for her. The biggest decision of her day has never been, what am I going to wear today? That's like the most minute thing, right? So I liked everything about how they introduced the community, and I like Gabriel Luna as Tommy a lot. He brings this nice, quiet, solemn take, but it's different than what Joel's, which is like this brittle anger behind it. Tommy always just feels like a lost puppy. You're kind of rooting for him. He has those sad eyes, but you still don't want to mess with him. So.
Yeah, I think that was really where Pedro, I mean, he was phenomenal throughout the entire episode, but like when he meets Tommy there, it was just like totally gut wrenching. Like I felt the emotion totally built up, because this person that he's just been looking for so long, had no idea that he was even alive, and there he is right in front of him.
I'm here to save you, and it's this nice community, like no saving needed whatsoever.
Yeah, it didn't go so well, like for what followed, because Tommy just did not really seem to care that he just abandoned him, and just no updates or anything for Joel. But in that moment, I just thought it was really, really powerful, and like with the score and everything, it just totally lifted the scene. And like you said, I thought when they like meet the community or whatever, that was just a really nice, intense moment, because I didn't think the worst case was gonna happen, but just because like the way that like the other like tester like worked on Ellie, I was curious how the dog situation was gonna go. So all that stuff was intense.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this sequence. I think for me it was like the element to, man, Joel is so closed off, and obviously he has that emotional moment with his brother when they first interact, but then he's so like he puts up that wall like immediately
yeah.
again. He's like not sharing any information with him. Doesn't want to say anything, like just not even a simple sentence in front of his wife. Like he's just so guarded, and he's so like he's obviously talking a lot about fear, but he just trusts no one. You just see like the journey he's gone on in this world is taking a toll on him. But I think it made those moments better when he finally did open up about what happened with Tess and the story he's going on, but also the dynamic too of when he shares that he's when his brother shares that he's having a kid, and Joel just has like the worst reaction ever.
Yeah.
And then like later, they're talking again. He's like, he apologizes to Joel about the way that moment went down. Like I thought that was interesting that Joel just like that was even a moment where they were finally trusting each other and stuff, but. Man, Joel's just like such an asshole. It's really fun.
I think I took that. What I liked about that, I guess, from Tommy's perspective, is he just felt it's still a good thing, but he knows that Joel's clearly not recovered, so he probably could have like maybe prepped him a little bit. He was just like, "Oh, we're having a kid," and like it's like he's all happy, and of course it should be a happy thing, but it's like a thing that I think needs to be like slowly fed to Joel. Like he's not a surprise type of guy, but like you said, I love at the beginning, or even though they're alone, he still doesn't even tell them about Tess. He's like, "How's Tess?" Like, "Oh, she's all right." Like won't even like share that info that he's lost this woman and stuff like that. And I think those two got some good chemistry. But yeah, both those scenes, from him being closed off, which was great, getting the news, some great acting by Pedro, and then later on he just feels so vulnerable when he does just spill everything, and when he does spill the whole like, "Hey, I can't go, or this girl's gonna die. Like I'm deaf, I got heart problems, I'm not quick." Like he's just listing all these reasons, and they even show that this episode, right, where he goes, "Okay, are you gonna take the night or morning shift?" He's like, "Oh, I'll take both," and he falls asleep, and he's like pissed off at her, but he's really pissed off at himself because this is multiple episodes now where he keeps trying to intend to be, "Oh, I can do it all," but he can't because he's aging in this world where he's, probably has a couple scars and stuff like that.
He must age like triple the rate that like a normal human
yeah.
would too in the apocalypse times.
Taylor, life expectancy laughs at us. Look it up. Tell us the percentage.
I mean, he also is 3 months
8%.
older than when we
8%.
saw him last week. So
Yeah,
3 months changes a person in this
that's
world.
like 12 months.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Also known as 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where else? What do we want to talk about next? We talked about.
Well,
anyone else? Anything more to add on Joel and Tommy and stuff?
Well, I'm curious, Travis, what you think on the. You mentioned that's a change that Tommy has a kid on the way. Do you think there's a reason for that beyond just the story implications here, or do you think that's something that they'll want to tackle in future seasons, like seeing more of this community and Tommy? And I mean, maybe Tommy dies in the first game. I don't know. I don't know enough about what happens to that character, but do you think there's like a future proofing too, where they're trying to maybe think of some other characters and storylines for the future?
I don't want to think. I don't want to get into Walking Dead territory now when we're thinking, "Oh, this kid and this," like when we lose the actors. I
watch like the third game have like a flashback where they
yeah.
actually had this scene back in the game, but you never saw it.
We wanted to keep the
revealed.
baby secret. We didn't want to tell anybody. Yeah. Which, hey, again, you never know. I think it's one of these storylines where I think they did it maybe, like I said, for Tommy to stay. And I actually like it for the relationship of Tommy and Joel. Like I like that writing point of he's lost a daughter, and it's just, and I love that line when he's like, "Life stopped for you, but not everyone else." But at the same point, it's like, yeah, it kind of should, because he lost everything and he's been alone now. He just lost Tess, and Tommy can say that, but Tommy's also living this pretty good life in the as good as you can get, maybe, right? Maybe other than Bill and Frank. Like he has a family now. They're pretty protected. They got electricity, they have movie nights and stuff like that, where Joel, what's he been doing for the past like couple days every year? Just burning bodies, asking, "Hey, you got anything else?" So I think it's a change that can create stuff, but I don't think it's a massive ripple. I think it's something that is more of a when we get to certain events, like, okay, that's interesting to add a baby into the fold, because I think it changes some dynamics. Nothing that it takes us on a big path, but it's enough that there's something to play with there. And yeah, maybe it is future proofing for other storylines and whatnot. And plus, I still think the second game and stuff, they might stretch out for multiple seasons, so you can do stuff there. I don't know, but it's tough to say anything about spoilers, but I think it can create some different story reasons, or it could just be they had an idea and, "Oh, let's give him a kid just for this exact episode," and then they'll deal with it later.
the whole like base that Tommy's hiding out at, like this is where it really actually gave me a Walking Dead kind of vibe. The actress who was playing Tommy's wife, like her hair just reminded me of like not like Michonne like first 3 seasons, but like 7 year like gap in the future Walking Dead Michonne, just the way it's kind of like on one side, like yeah. So
Same characters. They just jumped a bunch of years and stuff like that.
yeah, but I love that they like it's again what 10 or 20 years in the future. What was it again?
20. Yeah,
20.
2003 and then 2023. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Plus
I
3
love
months.
that. Plus 3 months, yeah.
plus
I
3
love
months,
that they
yeah. It's like
managed to get
Endgame.
they managed to get this dam operational, and they managed just kind of like have tons of great food. They got pigs that they're going to be raising to get pork, and just really really cool to see this and how they're just talking about how it started off with just one little section. Raiders are coming in like that. Infected are not really a concern out here, which makes sense because it's so cold and snowy,
Yeah.
which is ideal. So
Just the idea. I love when they have like we've talked about the scene, but I love when they just have a drink together, and he's like I haven't been in a bar and he couldn't even remember, and I like they're chipping away. I say just little stuff like that. I did find it funny though throughout like there was the boot shop and there was something else where just multiple times they're just letting they don't really trust Joel, but he's also just allowed to like hang out in these shops completely alone. That was a little bit of a disconnect for me of like, all right, like and I get that, right? And I think that's an interesting thing to play in them. They've both murdered people, but it's almost like Marie and then everybody else who knows about Joel just puts that on Joel. It's like, well, he must have made Tommy do these things, right? But he's looked at differently and stuff. But I did get a laugh. He's just hanging out in some shop. Nobody's there, like, But I guess that's just the idea that they trust Tommy, so they're gonna trust. If we trust Tommy and he says Joel's fine, then Joel's fine. Like that's the way they're going and stuff. But yeah, they what else? They can just make boots. He put down a new pair of boots. They look pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be
So-
I like that. I like seeing that kind of just day to day and what a 300-person community or commune, as they called it, would look like. I like that they went into some of that detail of just how they divvy up work and different the watches and just walking through the town and seeing some of that stuff. I like that we got to see some of those details. It's just some fun world building. We haven't really seen a community quite like that yet, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Like communism? No, it's nothing like that. No, it's exactly like communism. And just both the Joel and Tom. Like Tommy's trying to, because Tommy just knows, like, it's just so funny. Like that's why I love Joel. Tommy knows that Joel's not gonna like any of this, but like it's a working, happy community, and he's like he worries his brother won't like this community and stuff like that, right? Because like they do things a bit different of a way, but it's like well clearly it's working and. But it's fun, and that's where like everyone seems so happy and like at least a life, and Joel's just slinking around this area, just not like. I think they did a good job, like I guess Pedro as well, just make it seem like he does not fit in at all here. He does not. He didn't just get right in like, oh, I'm happy to be here. He's just like want to get out of there, drop Ellie off, and leave, and obviously that doesn't happen. But
He stands out because he's just so grizzled. He
Yeah.
obviously he just looks so much more war torn than everyone else that's been living it up here in this happy little place.
yeah.
how'd you guys feel about like obviously with Tommy and Joel, but when Ellie is in here, she's like beacon off and when they're eating food, the other girl kid's like watching and she's like, "What are you looking at?" And just get out of here. Just totally just going to town on
Oh
all
yeah,
these people.
I thought we would see that girl again. I thought they would interact at some point.
I thought
But
so
that was
too.
the only scene was just her flipping her off. I thought it was great. I loved it. She's just such a fun character in that way, and she doesn't know any better. That's just the life she's had. That's
Yeah.
totally normal way to interact with people, according to her.
It's just like a wildling, just like a feral child.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that
I
was a
really
fun
liked
moment.
the scene when they revealed the marriage, and he's like, "Oh, well, I just want to talk just family," and he's like, "Oh, well, this is family," and then Ellie's like, "Congrats!" Like, just say congrats, Joel, and just Pedro, congrats.
Yeah.
He's done that a couple. I feel like they use that as a good joke because he did that. It was I think in a Henry and Sam episode. He did something where he said something like that, like it did a hello or something. But Pedro has a good deadpan delivery, so.
I liked when they were having that dialogue too. I can't remember if it was before they arrived in this community or if it was after when they were kind of hitting it off. But she was all excited about the astronauts, how she was looking into that and reading it,
That
and
was
just looking at the
before,
sky.
yeah.
That was before. Okay, yeah, and I liked how they had that kind of had that like conversation there.
No, I was just trying to look at something because I didn't see this. This was on Twitter, so I'm not that good of a Last of Us sleuth. They show a baby horse, and that's a horse called Shimmer, and that's used in a second game. So look out for that
Oh,
horse to
cool.
grow up and something like that. And
Ooh.
apparently there's like I won't say who, but there's like a very I was looking for this character, and there's a very important character in Last of Us Part 2 that's in this community, but I didn't see her, but other people say that character is there. So I'll have to wait, get a rewatch or something. So
Was that the person? Because I liked this little moment too. It didn't have any dialogue with it. But it was just Joel when he's outside watching some people, whatever they're doing, and he sees like a girl he sees from behind. She kind of has the same hairstyle as Sarah did, and this is like a woman, but it's like I think for the very slightest of moments, his brain was like, if Sarah had grown up and like this, she would have looked like this or something. Obviously, and then she turns around and then he kind of kicks out of it. But I like that little moment. Is that the person you're talking about, Travis, or is it more just like some random
no? I'm
person
watching a
inside?
clip now. Actually, I totally. So it's the girl that you guys were talking about at one point when she yelled "what" to. That's the girl I think I was dealing with because I had a 3-year-old vomit during this episode. So that's always my life. But so that character is a very important character in the future actually. So I didn't know they cast her. That's very very cool, and that's definitely one. And it was fun too in that game. Part 2 came out. She's an actress in the game, and she did like a Twitch stream of like she hadn't played the game or seen much, so she like played herself, played the game herself. And she was in there and stuff. Is a very fun fourth wall breaky sort of deal. So
Is that
yeah.
Dina? Is it that person?
It's Dina, yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
and that's that is the because I was looking for that, and I guess vomit got in the way of that. But that's the great thing about like having the second game already made is you can do those things where in the first game it's like, oh, we don't have this character created, but now the second game is like, well, we can loot because this is the location we meet this character. So that's awesome. I'm very excited there.
What-
So they got a cast. So
Was it like projectile vomit covered the TV screen? Like, I can't
No.
see.
Do you really want to know?
No.
Yeah, can you review the vomit?
yeah. Well, it was everywhere. It was this color. No, it's just kids. They eat and they run around, and just in a second it can go 0 to
Somewhere else.
100. Yeah, but let's take an ad break to get past this, and we'll keep talking about this episode. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So, anything else in this community wise? How do you guys feel about Tommy's wife? We just met her for a little bit, but I like the actress who played her. I'd like to see her do some more stuff in the future.
I like that she was just like a district attorney, and now she's just living life like everybody else.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
no matter what you were before this, everybody's just somewhat equal in this post-apocalyptic world. And she said that Ellie would be a good lawyer. So there you go. If it all goes well and the cure works, because
Yeah.
that's what she'll do.
Dun, dun.
Yeah, I like that. She's like, I'm smarter than Tommy. She's like, you're smart, all right. I like that line. But no, I think I don't know if she had a ton of just great scenes to break down or anything like that. But I like the dynamic of sooner or later, Ellie's going to find out about Sarah. And I like just the nonchalance nature of the way that scene went. And then obviously it's later when Ellie's thinking on it and brings it up to Joel. Of course, she does it like immediately, right? She's not going to like hold on to that for the right moment. She just spew it out immediately. But yeah, I thought she was good, and I don't know, maybe we'll see that character again, and I'm down to see what else is going on with her.
Yeah, and I that is pretty much identical how it happens in the game. Good scene between Pedro and Bella where Pedro's just completely just shut off and just telling her like complete asshole of like, you don't know about loss, but it's just like very big. I feel like that's a tough thing to assume in this type of world, which I get it because he lost his daughter and that's like a big step. But then she lays out that she's lost everybody in her family.
I mean, he was
everyone
definitely thrown off balance by that, right? Like he was
Yes.
didn't see it coming. So whatever he said was not with any sort of ration behind it. It
Yeah.
was just, yeah.
You're lying.
Sarah was a hero. Go check out our Ant-Man review. But yeah, no, very well done. I think it's even like to the point of like the coloring of the wall is like very close to the game. They one of those times where it's very screened or whatever. So yeah, and then it looks like it's gonna go bad. Looks like Pedro. I keep calling that Joel's not gonna go, but then Joel was gonna steal a horse, and I love the moment where he's like, "Hey, you gotta pick me or Tom, whatever the choice," and she just right away picks Joel and stuff like that. And that's where to me I felt like there's like it's like in a video game when you unlock a skill tree, or like in Midnight Suns where you get that friendship level. That was like, okay, the friendship level has gone up and stuff like that. So, and then after that, it was like lots of good conversation of Like he talks about he actually wanted to be a singer, and they're just more like they were opening up before, but now it feels like they have rapport and they care about each other. But of course, in Last of Us, nothing go right because they head to this building where they're supposed to go, but everything's gone except for the monkeys. The monkeys are gone unless, like Ellie said, they got turned into monkeys, but they're gone. So they find something on the map. We're like, okay, we're gonna be going here, and then of course when they go out, just bandits and Joel it doesn't go Joel's way, unfortunately. You know, big baseball bat to the gut.
I felt like that whole sequence of him just like strutting in there on horseback was way too overly confident. This is where it totally like broke apart from the Joel that I feel like we've kind of taken a long time to kind of get to know and understand and how he operates. Like even when he was going into like was it Kansas like 2 episodes ago or an episode ago, he just played it out very, very differently, very cautiously. But here, yeah, they're on horseback, so they're much more exposed and they're just talking loud, having a good time, and they're inside like narrow, not alleyways, but like going through like on campus basically. You're going through courtyards and stuff like that. So it's definitely a lot of tight area, and you have like windows and stuff. Just felt like it was super exposed, going against the grain, like not Joel style. So yeah, that pulled me out a little bit.
I'm inclined to agree somewhat. I think the element of like, okay, they realize the guards aren't where they should be, so something's off, and so that should immediately put them on like high alert, but instead it doesn't. And once again, Tommy had kind of reiterated to them, this is very dangerous down here. And maybe he didn't specifically say that at university because that was the kind of safe zone. But if the safe zone is no longer a safe zone, you'd think that they'd be on extra high alert. But yeah, so I think I am inclined to agree with you. Even like when they get to the horse, and I don't know, like even just the fact that he like was holstering his gun onto the horse was like very un-Joel like to me. Like I'm like, wow, I feel like he very regularly puts Ellie up there first or something like that. It just the order of events didn't feel proper. But I mean, I liked all the dialogue there. I love the set. I mean, once again, if this is a CGI situation or green screen, they're killing it. But I assume they just actually went to a place, and I don't know. I guess I just feel so spoiled when we get something like that in a fantastical world where when they actually go above and beyond to create these sets. So I don't know about those monkeys either. Like those are pretty damn good looking monkeys. So maybe they're real trained monkeys.
Those
CGI,
weren't
I don't
real
know,
monkeys.
but
Those weren't
they
real
look pretty good to me.
See, I had the opposite. I was like,
Wild monkeys in Calgary.
I was like, oh, they didn't give them the budget for the monkeys. I thought they were very shiny.
I thought the monkey
monkeys.
budget was on par. Yeah.
The monkey budget. Okay, episode 7 or 6, monkey budget. This amount lauded and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I'm like halfway to agree with you guys there, but like once they actually saw them, like the bad guys, I feel like there was enough just like intensity at that moment to just rush out of there. Like, holy crap, this is super dangerous. Like, let's just go. And then maybe in that moment you're not exactly thinking straight. And then like, yeah, like when just Joel gets bopped or whatever, and then just you see everybody just like storming towards them. In that moment, it was just super, super intense, and it was an intense moment.
Did you guys see that
Ellie's just
coming? Did you think? Yeah, that's a big go-to for just shooting backwards stuff like that. But did you think he was making it that unscathed? Were you surprised the baseball bat was in the gut?
Yeah, I definitely was. I really had no idea what to expect, like at the end of that episode. So I feel like everything was just like a series of events of unexpectedness for me. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Joel's gotten out of a lot worse with a lot less damage. So I was kind of surprised when this guy who very much goon status, right? Like this was not like a trained assassin. This guy was a full-on goon, and the fact that he was able to get a really solid shot on him at the cost of a broken neck. Yeah, it maybe seemed like, wow, I'm surprised. One guy was able to really take Joel down a peg, but yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they ride that horse, falls off. Not looking good for Joel right now, you know. And Ellie doesn't want to be alone, so. Anything else particularly?
Taylor, go ahead.
Oh, how'd you guys feel about their I guess more like the comedic interaction with the two cabin folk at the beginning of the episode, because like I felt like Ellie was like really like a firecracker, and that she just rushes downstairs, and like I don't know if these two characters are in the game, but I thought
couldn't
they were
remember that.
hilarious.
I
I
couldn't
loved
remember,
them.
yeah.
Like, oh, you made him soup, and like he didn't hurt me, just so you know. Like I can see like I thought their bickering was really humorous.
Yeah, it seemed very authentic, like a real couple just bickering in that moment. And I love when it was like where on the map was it, and like remember or whatever it was. It better be the same as your wife's or whatnot. He's like, "What'd you tell him? Do you tell him the truth?" It's like, "Are you telling me the truth?" I thought that was a really funny moment.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that.
And I like that they insinuated like even before the outbreak they were already secluded, like they had already chosen to live away. So it's like obviously it would change their life, but they were already planning to live a life similar to this where they're just gonna be in their cabin away from everybody hunting. So it's like they kind of have most of the resources they would probably need. Obviously there's a few things I imagine that you would make do with, like, or you'd have to make do with and make change ups and whatnot. So it was kind of weird that these people were like, even Bill and Frank, they're somewhat affected by, where it feels like these people are almost not affected at all. You know, like they're living this like semi good life and stuff like that. But again, it's because they're stay put in one spot. Hopefully, no raiders show up and our poor characters have to have a bad fate or anything like that. But
For a moment, I thought that because Joel, like when they leave, he has that moment where he has like his heart is hurting, right? He leans against the fence. I was like, man, like they said they had some soup. Like, did she poison him or something? I'm like, this would be very unexpected. It did not go that way.
that's why he lost to the Goondale, and he was poisoned still. You know, he wasn't fully operational. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess some other quick notes from me. One, I mean, there was a lot of just funny moments in this episode that I really liked. I love that moment, the kind of montage sequence when Joel is teaching Ellie how to shoot, and she's like insistent that the gun is messed up, and he nails it. And even like the way he describes the gun, and he's like he describes something about like, oh, just press the trigger very slowly or
It was
with
like
passion or something.
Yeah, that like almost like a touch of a lover. I think he said. Something
Yeah,
like
and she's
that.
like, ooh.
Yeah.
I like the little sound
Yeah.
she made. And then she's like, what are you trying to do? Get it pregnant? Like all these
Yeah.
lines really got me. Her reaction when she goes in the house, she's like gets all cleaned up and whatnot, and then what's Tommy's wife's name? I keep forgetting her.
I think it's Maria.
Maria.
If I
yeah.
remember.
Maria.
Yeah.
Maria left her like a diva cup, and she was like playing with it, trying to figure out what it was. It like made a funny noise. So all that is just she's just so funny. And then the little piece of dialogue that I really liked in their ending sequence was when Joel was sharing what he did before this all went down. He's like, "Yeah, I was a contractor. Everyone loved contractors."
Yeah.
Like, I really liked
The
that sequence of dialogue.
contractors. Yeah. And I liked that line too early in the episode when she's like, he's like, oh, that's a dam. It gave us the electricity. Like, how did that work? He's like, don't even ask me. I have no idea. Like, you could have made up something. You could have said anything. And I just like that,
Yeah.
you know, Joel just, no, I'm not saying anything.
It's funny too thinking back to the episode when he was siphoning gas and he was like trying to explain or like get away with knowing how it works. She's like, you can just say you don't know how it works. So it's funny here. He was honest.
Yeah.
Travis, was there a time jump at like this point in the game? Can you remember the detail like that?
I can't remember if it's seasons, but they do fall versus winter.
Oh, right, there
very
is 4 seasons in the game, right? Is that,
Yeah,
like, the
it's
setup
very
of it?
specific. So I feel
Right.
like it's different though, because in the game, it's again because there's so much time when there's one. I don't like there is another time jump, and I don't know if they maybe put some of the more months into the here and everything like that. So I don't know if they kind of did it a bit earlier, or I don't know if it's just that it feels more natural in the game when you're spending 10 hours in a certain level or something, and you're walking, going location to location. Where with this, it's like, okay, we're gonna jump 3 months. So they do each season. I just don't remember. I know there is one.
So maybe
big
this point in the story is like winter, and then you're in this new area or
yeah.
something like that.
How when in the game though the big time jump was like to winter, and now we're already in winter, so that's why I feel like they kind of just maybe move that time jump like a little forward.
Yeah, because I guess, they're filming in Canada, but they're not actually
Yeah.
in Canada. I'm just wondering how much the snow is relevant, because it could have been like fall or whatever.
And I wonder if that's maybe part of the reason why, and this is where I said that I get murky on the details, because there is a time jump, but I wonder if that's why they put it maybe a little earlier here to, hey, we're on location, but there's snow everywhere. Well, let's just get into that more winterish type of season. So let's say 3 months. So people are like, hey, you guys were just talking about
I
being
see.
this month and everything like that. So I don't know what they're gonna do with the next time jump. I feel like that might be a bit smaller, but I remember in the game there's something that feels a little more of a like a shift for like, oh, okay, we're here now. Okay. Kind of like what it was like this episode. So that's why I can't remember. And there, like you said, there is multiple seasons. So maybe I misremember that every once in a while there's always a time jump when you're playing a game. Maybe you get to locations like a
Yeah.
month later, you know?
I guess if they're doing the seasons, they probably wouldn't feel the need to put a month on there too, right? That's probably just a nice bookend or different chapters.
Generalize it.
Yeah. And then, my last shout out, once again, I love just a travel sequence montage. So I love them just traveling on the horse. So many beautiful shots of just like their silhouette against the horizon with different mountains in the background and all that. Just so beautiful. And along with the music too. The music, like it's not like it's a new song every episode or something. Maybe slight variations on that theme, but just the combination of that music with these travel sequences, just getting me in this world. I love that stuff. So I hope they keep doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, the last thing I have to point out is it was kind of we already touched upon a little bit, but was in the conversation with Tommy when he's talking about even in his dreams. He's like, I wake up and I know I've lost something and I fail. And he's like, I can't even remember the dreams. I just know that I'm failing. And he's like, I'm failing when I'm asleep. And it just shows that he feels like in his life he's a failure. And then when he's even asleep, he's having just bad dreams that are negative to his life and stuff like that. And I liked, again, Pedro really felt like he was broken there, but I just thought there was some good writing there. I'm failing even when I'm asleep, and it's just like, man, bad life for Joel.
Just picture him having a nightmare. He's like basically like Norman looking into the mirror. He's just like, you're such a failure.
What if his
we're
nightmare?
a failure.
What if his nightmare is just simple, like he's just losing like a football basketball game or something? You know, he's like, I'm failing all the time, even my dreams. Which
Well, he
Taylor,
does know the rules of football pretty well.
I was gonna say, I was
He
laughing.
didn't
when
compare it
after
to
9
chess though.
He didn't, but after 9, he was. We were talking about explaining football, and he was doing that again here about how it's a violent sport and this and that. So there you go, Taylor. I feel like between my explanation and Joel's, you should understand the.
I'm with Ali. I don't know what was going on.
Yeah, we'll have to get on horseback and teach you. But yeah, that's all. That's all my notes. Anything else? Going once, going twice. Yeah, well, next week will be pretty good. Kirklin, we're going to get our first taste of Storm Reed from Euphoria, so that's going to be lots of fun. So, yeah. And Suicide Squad, if you've seen that movie. James Gunn's one, not the 2016 one. So, yeah, I think the next 3 episodes are going to be... not that the show's been bad, but there's just 3... I'd say, especially maybe I remember them more because they're in the back half, but I think 3 very big moments, they're all going to be covered here. Because I think the trajectory of this, if anyone had any doubts, I think the season is ending in like the way the game ended and stuff. There was at one point I was like, oh, could they stretch it out? But I think now we're getting to a point where, okay, we're kind of nearing some of these endpoints and everything like that, to the point where I don't know if you could stretch a season 2 out with like just the third act of the game and stuff like that. So I think this is a good point. And yeah, I'm very excited for the next few weeks. So, and we'll be there. We'll be covering them. We got 3 weeks. We'll be doing that. So big thank you to everyone that tuned in and listened and stuff like that. Let us know what you thought. And yeah, we'll be back next week for last episode 7. I'll not be boring.
Goodbye.
See ya.
Peace.